Hello nerds, welcome to Out of the Box Games. I'm Brian, and today we're going to look at a secret lair drop called Honor Among Thieves. This is actually a pretty exciting secret lair. We have 6 new cards, not reprints, all of which sound quite exciting and fun to play. One of them is even dual-sided. So apparently Honor Among Thieves is a movie, not another affirmative action Netflix series, so that's heartwarming. We peeped the trailer and visually the film looks like Game of Thrones meets Skyrim, which is dope, especially if you love CG. I'm a practical effects guy, so not an appealing point for me, but I can't help but love the homages and characters in this film, especially the token white guy. First, let's talk art. The artwork is fire. Literally, the guy has an aura of fire around his head. He's got a really cool dreadlock mohawk thing going on, and even a forehead tattoo. He looks a bit like a medieval SoundCloud rapper, which is fun. On top of all this awesome, we have a gorgeously detailed background depicting Skyrim, the greatest game of all time. Not feeling this art, everything looks stiff and blocky like John Goodman. The guy looks really weird, like a non-posable toy figure. He also looks incredibly stoned. His man purse is probably filled with edibles and Pokemon cards. He's definitely rolling 4d20. Good lord, it's Hugh Grant as a swashbuckling pimp. I don't even know what to say about this. Pass. Everything about this is perfect except one thing. It looks like they took a photo of the actress's face and applied a paint filter to it. It looks odd. It's like those cutout boards at the boardwalk that you stick your face in so you can take goofy photos. Beautiful art. This is perfect. The lush green glowing background creates a warm and inviting environment, which is oddly contradicted by her defensive stance. It makes me curious what is setting off her fight or flight mode. Is it a tribe of squirrels charging at her? Or maybe she's just horny. Speaking of horny, I am curious what in the world is dangling between her legs. That is definitely a conversation piece. And lastly, I have to say I am very curious how many damage points you get for hitting someone with a rock. I'm not sure if she turns into this thing or if that is what she sees approaching, but this thing is awesome and thankfully it doesn't resemble an actor, although it does have a slight resemblance to John Goodman. And lastly, we have this great looking dude, alone in a cave brandishing a dagger for no apparent reason. This guy also carries a purse, but unlike Stoned Wizard guy, this one is filled with Magnum condoms. I mean, look at this guy, he's like Brad Pitt mixed with Pierce Brosnan. And props to him for having the most creative weapon, an out-of-tune banjo that when played makes everyone want to kill themselves. So, what do these cards do? Palladium and Unbroken is a 2/4 human knight for 2 generic and 2 white, and auras you control have Exalted. Gotta love a straightforward yet brutal commander like this. Cast a shit ton of auras and swing big. What this card needs is lifelink, flying, and hexproof, and or indestructible. Daybreak Coronet will help you accomplish that while fueling your aura mechanics. Some instant shroud options would also ensure its safety. It would also like a friend or 2 on the battlefield. The great thing about this particular commander is that you don't have to attach aura spells to it in order to ramp up. Add some instant removal enchantments like Ossification and a couple tutors like Open the Armory, and you'll be a big swinging dick in no time. Next, we have the Wild Magic Sorcerer. He's a 1/1 human elf shaman for just 2 generic and 1 blue. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value 3 or greater, roll a d20. Doing this allows you one of 3 things. Each player draws a card, you draw a card, or you copy the spell that activated the ability with the option to choose new targets. This card sounds especially fun, but not without some serious drawback. Dice rolling mechanics are still limited, and this card requires spells for 3 or more mana. Worst of all, rolling a 20 is a long shot, so maximizing this card's potential will be very tricky. Your best bet is to run red with blue to maximize your dice roll mechanics. Pixie Guide and Blade of Frontiers will help you achieve higher dice rolls. Feywild Trickster will help create blockers and earn you some extra time to set yourself up for a d20 shit show. And Wand of Wonder will help you potentially cast your opponent's instant and sorcery spells for free, triggering your sorcerer's ability. Barbarian class will assist for just 1 single red, add a ton of counter and removal, ideally spells of 3 or more mana, and you might just live to see neat things happen. If it all proves too janky, just throw this guy in a Sheoldred the Apocalypse deck, if you're running Dimir, and watch everyone hate you. In reality, that's where this card would most likely be utilized. Neverwinter Charlatan, a 2/4 human rogue for 3 generic and 1 black. This card has menace and a ward cost of a creature sacrifice. It gets +2 power for each treasure you control, and whenever one or more players sack one or more creatures, you create a tapped treasure token. Sadly, but predictably, this ability triggers once each turn. This is a solid, straightforward card that can aggro your opponent's ass fairly quick if not checked. The idea here is pretty simple. We want to force creature sacrifice on the opponents, rack up as much treasure as possible, make your guy as invincible as possible, and swing hard. Academy Manufacturer would do well here. It's colorless, which would fit seamlessly if you would like to go Rakdos up in this mofo. If so, you could add Zorn and Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Also, slip Treasure Vault into your mana base. Unexpected Windfall will offer card draw and treasure. Reckless Endeavor, however expensive, will give you several extra inches, if you know what I mean. Goldspan Dragon is a must-have. If you want to get real scary, add Karn, Scion of Urza, and you're making big-ass tokens. Aside from that, basically load up a bunch of black sacrifice cards such as Invoke Despair, and a little extra protection for your guy, and you are set. Or, if you rather, you could just run this card in a mono-black God of Fright deck. For me, this card is probably among the top 2 choices in this particular bundle. Next, the Relentless Rager. Don't worry, we're not talking about my Red Rocket. This is a 4/6 human barbarian for 4 generic and 2 red. Big cost, but she has haste and must be blocked if able. When she attacks, each creature you control attacking a player gets +1 power till the end of turn for each creature that player controls. This means that the opponent is rocking a shit ton of 1/1 tokens, then they're going to get the smackdown. Otherwise, this ability is pretty minor. My least favorite card of the lot, it's very expensive with little payoff in my opinion. It's also kind of boring. If you do play it, you want to swing with this card every turn. It needs Trample to carry its damage through, and Vigilance to utilize that big 6 she carries around. I know we're inclined to run this with green, but I think this would be more fun to use with white. Give it lifelink and vigilance, and set up some token engines like Book of Exalted Deeds, which also doubles as a whammy card. Even if blocked by a 1/1, you'll be racking up a ton of life, and thanks to vigilance, you'll be blocking for a ton of life as well. I don't know, I'm trying to make this card interesting, but in reality, for me, it's a pass. Nature's Warden, a 3/3 Tiefling Druid for 3 generic and 1 green. She has Vigilance, and when she enters the battlefield, you search your library for a forest card and put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. This card is a fun concept, but also seems a bit finicky with questionable payoff. The good thing about Warden is that the forest card can be any forest card. It's not limited to a basic. The goal here is to transform Warden to a 6/6 bird bear creature, but the problem is not only do you have to attack, but you have to pay 1 generic and 1 green to do so. So this means that you're really paying 6 mana for a clunky card that has slightly underwhelming abilities. When Bird Bear changes back to the Warden, you don't get to search for another forest again because she already entered the battlefield, which makes me curious why this card reverts back to its original creature. You have to continue paying 2 mana to turn this thing back into the creature that you actually want in the first place. The temporary +2/2 counters and trample for other legendary creatures is pretty sweet and can certainly be capitalized on, but overall I would just rather play Vorinclex. And lastly we have Larcenous Lutenist. Gotta love that name. A 3/3 human bard for 1 generic, 1 blue and 1 red. It gives each non-land card in your hand Foretell. The Foretell cost is equal to that card's mana cost reduced by 2 generic mana. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, you goad target creature an opponent controls. To understand this card, you need to know that Foretell in this case means you paid 2 generic mana. Put the chosen card face down. Then, on a later turn, you simply pay the card's mana cost to cast it. -2 generic mana. This ability allows you to cast a spell that you otherwise cannot afford, and to free up your hand for more cards since foretold cards are technically exiled from the game until you play them. Pretty sweet. You also need to know that when you goad a creature, that means that it must attack that turn if able, but it cannot attack you. I'm no expert on goad, but I believe the effect wears off at the turn's end. In my opinion, this is probably one of the most powerful cards in the set. This card is cheap to cast and has so much flexibility in what you can do with it. This guy wants counter and removal control spells and card draw. You really want to make sure you have cards flowing to hand throughout the game. Foretelling spells, removing permanents, countering, and hopefully making other players' creatures do your dirty work. I can see this being a very annoying card to play against. It's a very cheap commander if you choose to build around it, otherwise it offers great support in control decks. Phew! Well, that about covers it. I think this is a pretty cool secret layer drop. I love that it's all original cards, and I'm looking forward to playing these. Definitely going to pick up a bundle. Make sure to subscribe so you can watch the unboxing here on our channel. Be sure to like this video and comment below what card you're looking forward to the most from this bundle. When we get 20 comments, I'm going to roll a d20 and pick a winner at random to receive a Minsk Beloved Ranger Showcase foil. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you nerds later. Bye.